The transport ship docked with a metallic clunk that echoed through the station's receiving bay. Tyler Brooks grabbed his duffel bag and stepped through the airlock, taking his first breath of recycled station air. It smelled like every research facility he'd ever worked in, that mix of sterilization chemicals and ozone from the life support systems. Home sweet home, at least for the next 2 years. The welcoming committee was waiting for him, and Tyler couldn't help but grin when he saw them. 3 Valkyrians, their crystalline bodies catching the overhead lights like living prisms. 2 Dronix workers, their insect-like features twitching as they assessed him with compound eyes. And 1 very uncomfortable-looking station director whose name tag identified him as Zorthax. Tyler's grin widened. He knew that look. Humans made a lot of aliens nervous, and the smile didn't help. Back in basic xenobiology training, they'd explained that showing teeth was considered aggressive in most galactic cultures. But Tyler figured if they were going to work together, they might as well get used to human expressions from day one. "Welcome to Research Station Helix 9, Zorthax said, his voice coming through Tyler's translator as a crisp, formal tone. "We have prepared your quarters and laboratory access. Your orientation begins in 1 hour, where we will review safety protocols and introduce you to your assigned research projects." "Thanks," Tyler said, adjusting his bag on his shoulder. "But actually, I'd rather skip straight to seeing the specimens. I like to get a feel for what I'm working with before I dive into the paperwork. Mind if we tour the containment levels?" The director's crystalline face did something that Tyler had learned to recognize as annoyance. Little flickers of light rippled across his surface. "That is irregular. The proper procedure is orientation first, then supervised access too." "I promise I won't touch anything," Tyler said, his tone friendly but firm. "Just want to look around. Get the lay of the land, you know?" Zorthax looked like he wanted to argue, but one of the Dronix workers clicked something that the translator rendered as, "The human is persistent. This will take less time if we simply comply with his request." So they went. Tyler followed the group through the station's upper levels, nodding and making appropriate sounds as they showed him the prize specimens. Level 1 housed a crystalline entity that existed in 4 dimensions simultaneously. Level 2 contained a bacterial colony with a collective consciousness that could solve complex mathematical equations. Level 3 had a creature that breathed methane and communicated through color patterns on its skin. All of it was impressive. All of it was fascinating. But Tyler noticed something as they descended. The cells on the upper levels were spotless. Temperature controlled. The observation logs were updated daily. The specimens were clearly being monitored around the clock. But with each level they went down, things got a little less pristine. The lighting wasn't quite as bright. The floors had scuff marks that hadn't been cleaned. By the time they reached level 5, Tyler was frowning. "What's below this?" he asked. "Level 6, one of the Valkyrian researchers said dismissively. "Storage and low-priority specimens. Nothing of scientific interest." "I'd like to see it anyway." The aliens exchanged glances, the kind of look that said they thought he was wasting everyone's time. But they took him down one more level, and the moment the elevator doors opened, Tyler's jaw tightened. The air down here was stale. The lights flickered. And the smell hit him like a physical force, that unmistakable odor of neglect. They walked past several cells, most of them empty or containing specimens that looked like they'd been forgotten years ago. Then Tyler stopped. Just stopped dead in his tracks in front of cell 47. Through the scratched and dirty viewing window he could see it. A creature huddled in the far corner, its body pressed against the wall like it was trying to disappear into the metal. The cell was filthy. Waste had piled up in one corner. The food dispenser hung at an angle, dripping gray paste onto the floor instead of into the bowl where it belonged. And in the middle of all that neglect sat something that made Tyler's heart sink. The creature itself was hard to look at, he'd give the aliens that much. Its body seemed wrong somehow, like nature had started building something and then gotten distracted halfway through. Patchy fur stuck out in random directions. 6 eyes of different sizes blinked out of sync across its face. 3 legs, none of them matching, kept its body at an awkward angle. But that wasn't what caught Tyler's attention. What caught his attention was the way the creature was sitting. That wasn't the posture of a mindless animal. That was defeat. That was loneliness. That was something that had given up hope a long time ago. "What's this one?" Tyler asked, his voice quieter than before. A Dronix researcher didn't even look up from his datapad. "Specimen ZX-419. Non-sentient scavenger from the outer rim. No research value. We maintain it for archival purposes only." "Archival purposes," Tyler repeated slowly. "And when was this cell last cleaned?" The researcher's antennae twitched with irritation. The automated systems handle all maintenance for low-priority specimens. The protocols are programmed too. The protocols are broken, Tyler cut in, pressing his hand against the viewing window. Look at this place. When's the last time anyone actually came down here to check if your automated systems were working? Inside the cell, something changed. The creature's 6 eyes, which had been staring blankly at the wall, suddenly moved. All of them. All at once. They focused on Tyler with an intensity that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Those weren't the eyes of something non-sentient. Those were the eyes of someone who'd been invisible for far too long and was shocked that someone finally saw them. Tyler made a decision right there. He pulled out his new access card and swiped it across the cell's control panel. The lock clicked open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. What are you doing? Zorthax demanded, his crystalline body flashing with alarm. You cannot enter a containment cell without proper authorization and safety protocols. Tyler stayed kneeling on the filthy floor of cell 47, his knees already soaking through with something he didn't want to think about too hard. Outside the viewing window, he could see the alien researchers clustered together, their various appendages gesturing wildly as they argued about what to do with the crazy human who just walked into a contaminated cell without following a single safety protocol. Let them argue, Tyler thought. He'd deal with their complaints later. Right now, all his attention was on the creature in front of him. It hadn't moved since those 6 eyes had locked onto his face, but Tyler could see the subtle shifts in its body language. The way its mismatched legs tensed slightly, ready to scramble away if he made a threatening move. The way its patchy fur rippled with each rapid breath. This wasn't some mindless animal. This was a thinking, feeling being who'd learned that nothing good ever came through that cell door. I know you're scared, Tyler said quietly, keeping his voice low and gentle. I would be too if I lived like this. But I'm not here to hurt you, okay? I just want to help. The creature's 6 eyes blinked, each one closing and opening at a different time, giving its face an constantly shifting expression. Tyler had read about species with multiple eyes before. Usually they were positioned that way for predator detection or depth perception. But these eyes seemed different. They moved independently, sure, but right now they were all focused on the same thing. Tyler slowly reached into his jacket pocket, moving deliberately so the creature could see exactly what he was doing. He pulled out a protein bar, one of the emergency rations he always kept on hand. It probably wasn't ideal nutrition for an alien species, but it had to be better than whatever gray sludge was dripping from that broken dispenser. He tore open the wrapper, the crinkling sound loud in the quiet cell. The creature's eyes widened, all 6 of them tracking the movement of the food. Tyler broke off a small piece and held it out on his palm, his arm extended but not reaching too far into the creature's space. You hungry, buddy? Tyler asked. This is from Earth. It's not much, but it's real food. None of that paste they've been feeding you. For a long moment, nothing happened. The creature stayed pressed against the wall, its breathing rapid and shallow. Tyler didn't move, didn't push. He'd worked with traumatized animals back on Earth, dogs and cats that had been abused or neglected. The key was patience. Let them come to you on their own terms. His arm was starting to ache from holding it out when the creature finally moved. One of its 3 legs extended forward, testing the ground. Then another. It moved in an awkward, lopsided gait that made Tyler's heart hurt. Those legs weren't injured, he realized. They'd always been that way. This creature had spent its entire life struggling with a body that didn't work the way bodies were supposed to. It got close enough that Tyler could smell it now, that mix of unwashed fur and fear and something else, something almost sweet underneath the layers of neglect. The creature stretched its neck forward, nostrils flaring as it sniffed at the piece of protein bar in Tyler's hand. Then, with a movement so quick Tyler almost missed it, the creature snatched the food and retreated back to its corner. It held the piece in what looked like small grasping appendages Tyler hadn't noticed before, turning it over and examining it from every angle with those 6 independently moving eyes. Finally, it took a tiny, cautious bite. The change was immediate. The creature's entire body language shifted. Its eyes widened, its fur seemed to smooth down slightly, and it took another bite, this time larger. Then another. Within seconds, the piece was gone, and the creature was staring at Tyler with an expression he could only describe as desperate hope. Good, huh? Tyler smiled, breaking off another piece. Yeah, real food tastes a lot better than that industrial garbage. Here, have some more. This time, the creature came to him faster, its awkward gait a little more confident. It took the second piece directly from Tyler's hand, and he felt the touch of those small appendages against his palm. Warm. Gentle. Careful not to hurt him. That's it, Tyler encouraged. We're getting somewhere now, aren't we? Behind him, he heard the cell door hiss open. Heavy footsteps entered, and Tyler didn't need to look to know it was Zorthax, probably coming to drag him out for violating about 17 different station regulations. Dr. Brooks, the director's voice was sharp, crystalline body flashing with authority. You will exit this cell immediately. This specimen has not been properly evaluated for human contact. You are risking contamination, injury, and giving this living being its first moment of kindness in who knows how long, Tyler interrupted, still not taking his eyes off the creature. When's the last time anyone actually came in here? When's the last time someone checked if it was healthy or comfortable or even alive? The automated systems are broken, Tyler said firmly. He finally stood up, turning to face the director while positioning himself between Zorthax and the creature. And you know what? I don't think they've been working for a long time. I think everyone just stopped caring because this specimen wasn't pretty enough or interesting enough to matter. Zorthax's crystalline face flickered with something that might have been guilt, but his voice remained stern. This facility processes hundreds of specimens. We cannot personally attend to every. Then you shouldn't have taken it in the first place, Tyler shot back. Look, I'm not trying to cause problems on my first day, but I'm taking responsibility for this one. I'll clean the cell. I'll fix the systems. I'll do the health evaluations. Just let me do my job. The director and the human stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Zorthax's lights dimmed slightly in what Tyler hoped was resignation. Fine, the director said. Specimen ZX419 is now your responsibility. But if it becomes aggressive or causes any incidents, it will be terminated according to station protocol. Is that understood? Crystal clear, Tyler said. No pun intended. Zorthax made a sound the translator couldn't quite interpret and left the cell, the other researchers following in his wake. Tyler waited until they were gone, then turned back to the creature. It was watching him with all 6 eyes, and if Tyler didn't know better, he'd swear it understood every word of that conversation. Looks like you're stuck with me now, Tyler said softly, holding out the rest of the protein bar. What do you say we clean this place up and start over? Fresh beginning for both of us. The creature took the food from his hand and this time, it didn't retreat to its corner. It stayed close, those 6 eyes locked on Tyler's face with something that looked remarkably like trust beginning to bloom. Tyler smiled and for once he didn't care if showing teeth was considered threatening. Some things transcended cultural differences. Kindness was kindness no matter what planet you came from. And this creature was about to learn what kindness really meant. 3 months had passed since Tyler first walked into Cell 47, and the research station was alive with rumors. Everyone had a story about the strange human on level 6. Some said he spent 8 hours a day with that ugly specimen. Others claimed he brought it food from his own meals. The Dronix workers swore they'd heard him singing to it, actual human songs echoing through the empty corridors of the forgotten level. The gossip reached every corner of the station. In the cafeteria, researchers from different species would huddle together and share the latest ridiculous update. Did you hear he reads to it? Like it can understand stories? The human actually installed furniture in the cell, chairs and tables like it's some kind of apartment. He plays earth music through speakers. He talks to it like it's a person. Most of them laughed about it. Typical human behavior, they said. Humans were known across the galaxy for their bizarre tendency to bond with anything that moved. There were stories of humans who kept fish in glass containers just to watch them swim. Humans who talked to plants to help them grow. Humans who cried at fictional stories about robots. This was just another example of their emotional irrationality. But then someone noticed something strange. The creature in Cell 47 was changing. At first it was subtle. A maintenance worker doing repairs on level 6 mentioned that the specimen looked different, though he couldn't quite put his finger on how. Then a junior researcher doing inventory checks noticed that the creature's fur seemed fuller, healthier. The patches were filling in, developing what looked like an actual pattern, swirls of gray and silver that caught the light. Tyler had noticed it too, of course. He'd watched the transformation happen day by day, sometimes hour by hour. That first week he'd simply focused on the basics. He'd spent an entire day cleaning Cell 47 from top to bottom, scrubbing away months of neglect. He'd repaired the food dispenser himself, then completely reprogrammed it to provide actual varied nutrition instead of that gray paste. He'd fixed the ventilation system, the temperature controls, the lighting. But he didn't stop there. Tyler brought in items from his own quarters. A cushion mat for the creature to sleep on instead of the bare metal floor. Textured panels he mounted on the walls, different surfaces to touch and explore. He fabricated simple puzzle boxes using the station's 3D printer, objects that required manipulation and problem-solving to open. Every day he'd come down to level 6 before his shift started and stay long after it ended. He'd talk to the creature while he worked, telling it about his day, about Earth, about anything and everything. At first, the creature just watched him with those 6 strange eyes. But gradually it started responding. A tilt of the head when Tyler asked a question. A movement toward whatever object Tyler was describing. Small signs that it was listening, understanding, thinking. The changes accelerated. The creature's movements became smoother, more coordinated. Those 3 mismatched legs that had made it stumble and lurch started working together like they'd finally figured out their purpose. The 6 eyes that had blinked randomly now moved in perfect synchronization, tracking Tyler's movements with sharp intelligence. And then came the day that changed everything. Lisa Grant was a Valkyrian behavioral specialist who'd been at the station for 5 years. She was brilliant, respected, and absolutely certain she knew everything worth knowing about xenobiology. When she'd first heard about Tyler's project with the specimen on level 6, she'd laughed along with everyone else. The human was wasting his time on a non-sentient creature that had already been properly classified. But Lisa was also a scientist, and scientists are supposed to be curious. After 3 months of hearing increasingly bizarre reports, she decided to see for herself what this human was actually doing down there. She took the elevator to level 6 during her lunch break, expecting to find Tyler doing something foolish and sentimental. What she found instead made her crystalline body flicker with shock so intense that she actually had to steady herself against the wall. Through the viewing window of cell 47, she could see the creature sitting at a small table Tyler had installed. In front of it was a 3-dimensional puzzle, the kind they used to test cognitive ability and confirm sentient species. It was a complex thing requiring spatial reasoning, pattern recognition, and sequential thinking to solve. And the creature was solving it. Not randomly, not through trial and error, but with clear, deliberate strategy. Those 6 eyes examined the puzzle from multiple angles. Its small grasping appendages moved pieces with precision and purpose. Lisa watched, stunned, as the creature completed a section that most junior researchers struggled with. But that wasn't even the most shocking part. Tyler sat beside the creature and he was talking to it. Not at it, but with it. And the creature was responding through a small device on the table, a modified translation unit that Tyler must have programmed himself. Lisa pressed the intercom button, her voice shaking slightly. "What is happening in there?" Tyler looked up, his expression calm. "Oh hey Lisa. Good timing. We just finished lesson 4. Want to come in?" Lesson 4. Lisa's mind was reeling. That specimen is classified as non-sentient. We scanned it. Multiple times. Tyler stood up, walking over to the viewing window. You scanned a being that was starving, traumatized, and living in its own waste. You saw what you expected to see based on its condition. He gestured back to the creature, which was watching them both with clear interest. His species, the Kethri, they're empathic symbionts. Their cognitive and physical development directly reflects their environment and how they're treated. You saw him as worthless garbage, and that's what he became. But I saw someone who needed help. The creature touched the translation device and a voice emerged, halting but clear. Tyler, salami. Others did not. Lisa felt her entire understanding of xenobiology crack and shatter. This was impossible. This was revolutionary. This was going to change everything they thought they knew about intelligence and development and classification. She rushed from level 6 straight to Zorthax's office, her words tumbling out in an excited stream. The director had to hear about this. The council had to know. This discovery was massive. But Zorthax didn't share her enthusiasm. His crystalline face darkened as she spoke. The human is contaminating a specimen, he said coldly. This violates protocol. The specimen must be re-isolated and properly studied. The next morning, Tyler found an official message waiting on his datapad. Cease all contact with specimen ZX419 immediately. The creature was to be transferred to a sterile research environment for proper evaluation. No further personal interaction would be permitted. Tyler read the message twice, then did something very human. He smiled, deleted it, and went down to level 6 to continue teaching his friend how to read. Some orders, he figured, weren't worth following. The alarm tore through the silence like a scream. Tyler jerked awake in his quarters, his heart already pounding before his brain fully processed what was happening. The walls were bathed in pulsing red light from the emergency system. His comm unit on the nightstand erupted with overlapping voices, all of them sharp with panic. Containment breach, level 3, repeat, containment breach. Medical team to section 7, we have casualties, multiple casualties. All personnel initiate evacuation protocols immediately. Tyler's military training from his brief stint in Earth's Defense Force kicked in automatically. He rolled out of bed, grabbed his emergency go bag from the closet, and was dressed and out the door in less than 40 seconds. His bare feet slapped against the cold metal floor as he ran toward the command center, pulling on his boots as he moved. The corridors were chaos. Researchers from a dozen species fled toward the evacuation points, their voices mixing into a symphony of terror. A Dronix worker slammed into Tyler's shoulder as it rushed past, too panicked to even apologize. The emergency lighting made everything look like a nightmare, all harsh shadows and blood-red illumination. Tyler burst into the command center to find it packed with senior staff, all of them shouting over each other. Zorthax stood at the main console, his crystalline body flashing rapidly as he barked orders. Lisa was there too, her usually calm demeanor shattered as she coordinated evacuation routes on a secondary screen. What got loose? Tyler demanded, pushing his way through the crowd. Lisa turned to him and Tyler felt his stomach drop. Her crystalline face had gone pale, something he didn't even know was possible for Valkyrians. The Ravager from Sector 9, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Class X Predator. It broke through reinforced containment. 2 Dronix researchers are dead. 3 more injured. And it's heading toward the life support systems. Tyler's mind raced. Class X meant the highest threat level. Creatures that could tear through blast doors. Things that had evolved on death worlds where everything was either predator or prey, and nothing lived long enough to become old. Security teams? Already tried, a Dronix security officer buzzed, his antenna drooping with defeat. We lost contact with them 2 minutes ago. The Ravager is too fast, too aggressive. Standard containment protocols have failed. Zorthax's voice cut through the noise like a blade. All personnel will evacuate immediately. This station is lost. We have 7 minutes before emergency bulkheads seal permanently. Anyone not on an escape pod by then will be trapped. 7 minutes. Tyler's thoughts immediately went to level 6. To cell 47. To his friend sitting down there in the forgotten section of the station, probably sensing the danger through those empathic abilities that nobody else had bothered to discover. What about the specimens? Tyler asked, though he already knew the answer. The lower levels? Zorthax didn't even look at him. No time. The bulkheads will seal in 6 minutes now. Everything below level 5 will be locked down. It's unfortunate, but the specimens are a loss we must accept. Unfortunate. Like they were talking about lost equipment instead of living beings? Tyler felt rage bubble up in his chest, hot and fierce. Around him, researchers were already filing out, heading for the escape pods. Nobody was arguing. Nobody was suggesting they try to save the creatures trapped in those lower levels. Nobody except Tyler. He turned and ran. Behind him, he heard Zorthax's voice amplified through the command system. Dr. Brooks. That is a direct order. Return to the evacuation point immediately. Tyler didn't slow down. He hit the emergency stairwell at a full sprint, taking the stairs 3 at a time. His boots rang against metal as he descended, the sound echoing up the shaft. Above him he could hear the automated voice counting down. Emergency bulkhead closure in 5 minutes. All personnel evacuate immediately. Level 4. Level 5. His lungs were burning now, his legs screaming in protest. The emergency lighting in the stairwell flickered, and somewhere above him, he heard a sound that made his blood freeze. A roar. Not the sound of any animal Tyler had ever heard, but something that reached into the primitive part of his brain and screamed, "Run!" The Ravager was hunting. Emergency bulkhead closure in 4 minutes. Tyler hit level 6 just as the massive bulkhead door began its slow grind shut. He could see the gap narrowing, hear the hydraulics straining. He didn't think, just dove, sliding across the floor like he was stealing home base. The bulkhead caught his backpack and for one terrifying second he was stuck, being dragged backward. Then the fabric ripped and he tumbled through onto level 6. Behind him, the bulkhead slammed shut with a boom that shook the floor. He was locked in now. No going back. The corridor stretched before him, dark except for the pulsing emergency lights. Tyler picked himself up, grabbed what was left of his bag and ran toward cell 47. His hands were shaking as he entered his access code. The door hissed open. Inside, his friend sat in the corner, all 6 eyes fixed on the doorway. Tyler had learned to read those expressions over the past 3 months, and what he saw now was pure fear. But also trust. The creature trusted that Tyler had come for a reason. "I need you to trust me," Tyler said, breathing hard, his words coming out between gasps. Can you feel the Ravager? Can you sense what it's feeling? The creature's 6 eyes closed in concentration. When they opened again, it reached for the translation device with trembling appendages. The voice that came out was frightened but certain. Pain. Poison. Dying. Not evil. Sick. Lashing out because hurting. Tyler's mind made the connection instantly. The Ravager wasn't on a rampage because it was naturally violent. It was dying, poisoned by something, lashing out in agony and confusion. Just like an animal back on Earth might attack when it was wounded and scared. Can you help it? Tyler asked. Can you calm it down with your empathic abilities? A long pause. Then, with you, maybe? Oh, no. Need human. Need friend. Above them, through the ceiling, came another roar. Closer now. The Ravager was on level 4. Maybe level 5. Hunting through the station, leaving destruction in its wake. Zorthax's voice crackled through the emergency speakers, thin and desperate. Dr. Brooks, if you can hear this, what you're attempting is suicide. Please save yourself. Tyler looked at his friend. At this being that everyone else had written off as garbage. At someone who was offering to walk into danger not because it was brave, but because it might be able to help. He made his choice. Tyler opened the cell door fully, overriding the locks. Then let's do this together, he said. We die helping instead of running. Together, the human and the creature everyone had dismissed as worthless stepped into the darkened corridor. Above them, the Ravager's footsteps thundered through the ceiling and death came hunting. But Tyler and his friend walked toward it anyway because some things mattered more than survival. Some things were worth the risk. Tyler found the Ravager on level 4, and the sight of it made every survival instinct in his body scream at him to run. The creature was massive, easily 3 times his height, with a body that looked like it had been carved from volcanic glass. Its claws were obsidian black, each one as long as Tyler's forearm and sharp enough to cut through reinforced steel. But the worst part was its eyes. They burned like hot coals, filled with rage and pain and something desperate that made Tyler's heart ache despite his terror. The Ravager had 3 researchers cornered against a sealed bulkhead. A Velcarian, a Dronix, and someone from a species Tyler didn't recognize. They were pressed flat against the wall, frozen in fear as the massive predator stalked toward them. Its movements were jerky, uncoordinated. Foam dripped from its jaws. Every breath it took sounded wet and labored. Easy, Tyler whispered, though he wasn't sure if he was talking to himself, his friend, or the universe in general. His voice was shaking. We've got this. We can do this. Beside him, his friend from Cell 47 stepped forward. Those 6 eyes that Tyler had come to know so well suddenly began to glow with a soft blue light, like moonlight on water. It was beautiful and strange and completely unexpected. Then a sound emerged from his friend's throat, something Tyler had never heard before in all their months together. It wasn't quite music. It wasn't quite language. It was something deeper, something that Tyler felt in his chest rather than heard with his ears. A vibration that resonated through the air and made the hair on his arms stand up. It was the sound of empathy itself, of understanding and compassion made audible. The Ravager froze mid-step. Its massive head swung toward them, those burning eyes locking onto the glowing figure beside Tyler. For a moment nothing moved. The entire station seemed to hold its breath. Then slowly the aggression drained from the Ravager's posture. Its claws retracted slightly. Its breathing, which had been rapid and furious, began to slow. The creature swayed on its feet like it was dizzy, and Tyler realized with a shock that it was crying. Actual tears were running down its alien face. Up in the escape pods, every single evacuated researcher was watching through the station's camera feeds. Zorthax had pulled up the security footage, unable to look away even though he was certain he was about to watch Tyler die. Lisa stood beside him, her crystalline hands pressed against the viewing screen. What they saw instead was impossible. Tyler's friend continued that strange empathic resonance, moving closer to the Ravager with slow, careful steps. The massive predator, this Class X killing machine that had torn through security teams like paper, lowered itself to the ground. It was submitting. Not because it was defeated but because someone finally understood its pain. When the Ravager collapsed completely, Tyler moved fast. He pulled out his medical scanner from what remained of his emergency kit and ran readings on the creature. The results made his jaw clench with anger. It's poisoned. Tyler shouted up at the cameras, knowing Zorthax was watching. Your containment protocols used an atmosphere mixture that's been slowly killing it for weeks. The poor thing's been in constant agony. It wasn't being aggressive, it was dying and lashing out because everything hurt. In the escape pods, researchers exchanged guilty looks. Nobody had checked. Nobody had verified that the containment environment was actually safe for the specimen. They just assumed the automated systems had it handled. Tyler and his friend worked together, speaking in that wordless way they developed over months of companionship. They guided the Ravager, this creature that weighed several tons and could have killed them both with one swipe, down to the medical bay. The Predator followed them like a lost child following its parents, trusting them completely because someone had finally shown it kindness. Hours passed. Tyler worked alongside the station's medical AI, treating the toxicity, flushing the poison from the Ravager's system, stabilizing its vitals. His friend stayed close the entire time, maintaining that empathic connection, keeping the creature calm and reassured. By the time the first rescue ships arrived, expecting to find a devastated station, they instead found the crisis completely resolved. But the real shockwave was just beginning. The footage of what happened spread across the galactic network like wildfire. Every news feed, every data stream, every communication channel showed the same incredible scene. A creature that had been classified as worthless and non-sentient had just saved an entire research station. And it had been a human, a species that had barely been traveling through space for a century, who had recognized its potential. The Galactic Council demanded immediate answers. Within a week, Tyler and his friend were transported to the Council's central chambers on the capital world. Representatives from every major civilization in known space filled the massive auditorium, thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds, all waiting to hear an explanation. Tyler's friend stood at the speaking platform, fully evolved now, standing tall and confident. Those 6 eyes that had once blinked randomly now moved with perfect coordination, gleaming with undeniable intelligence. The patchy fur had grown into a beautiful pattern of silver and gray. The 3 mismatched legs now worked in harmony. This was what the species truly looked like when given care and compassion. Through the translation system that Tyler had built, amplified now so the entire chamber could hear, his friend addressed the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "My people, the Kethri, were nearly extinct," the voice said clear and strong. "Not because we were weak. Not because we were evolutionary failures. But because you saw us as ugly. You saw us as useless. You saw us as beneath your consideration. We are empathic symbionts. We are mirrors that reflect the compassion or cruelty of those around us. You found me repulsive because you treated me with disgust and neglect. You saw worthlessness because that's what you decided I was worth." The chamber was completely silent. Thousands of advanced beings, species who had been traveling the stars for millennia, sat in stunned quiet. But Tyler saw something different. This human from a world you barely acknowledged looked at me and saw potential. Saw someone worth helping. Saw beauty where you saw garbage. And in seeing me that way, in treating me with kindness, Tyler helped me become what my species was always meant to be. Tyler stood off to the side, his heart pounding. His friend continued, and the words hit like hammer blows. "How many others have you done this to? How many species have you classified as non-sentient, as worthless, as mistakes of evolution, simply because they didn't look the way you expected? How many potential friends, allies, maybe even saviors have you locked in forgotten cells because they didn't meet your standards of beauty or immediate usefulness?" A Valkyrian counselor finally stood, her voice shaking. "Are you saying our entire system of xenobiological classification is fundamentally flawed?" Tyler's friend turned those 6 intelligent eyes toward her. "I'm saying that humans understand something your ancient civilizations have forgotten. They look at the universe and ask, what if, instead of, what use? They see potential instead of profit. They connect instead of categorize. They care instead of classify." Tyler stepped forward then, standing beside his friend. "Over the past week we've been reviewing your databases," he said, his voice carrying through the chamber. "We found 47 species currently classified as non-sentient or minimal value that show similar traits to the Kethri. Empathic species. Reactive species. Beings whose development depends on their environment and treatment. You've had potential friends locked in cells for decades, and you never knew because you never bothered to care." The implications hit the council like a shockwave. Every classification would need to be reviewed. Every specimen re-evaluated. Decades of scientific certainty crumbled in an instant. The galaxy changed that day. New protocols were implemented, named after Tyler and his friend, requiring empathic evaluation and proper care for all captured life forms. Research Station Helix 9 was converted into a rehabilitation center, with Tyler as its director and his friend as chief liaison. Together, they worked to help neglected species reach their true potential. Earth, the youngest member of the Galactic Council, suddenly found itself leading a revolution in how advanced civilizations approached intelligence and value. Other species still didn't fully understand humanity's strange need to bond with everything they encountered. But they couldn't deny the results. The creature everyone had called a mistake, the ugly alien that had been thrown away and forgotten, had become the catalyst for the greatest shift in galactic consciousness in recorded history. And it had taken a human to see the beauty that was always there, just waiting for someone to care enough to look.